Okay, so good morning, guys. So we'll continue with module one. So we are the end of chapter two. So we have one topic left, and this is a very big topic that is system interconnect architectures. Okay, so far what we have seen in this chapter is the conditions of parallelism, where we saw some dependencies and what are the other conditions that will help us and also inhibit us uh, from running parallelly. Then we saw how to partition the program. So we saw about granularity of your parallel programs, and also grain packing and scheduling. So, so that will help us to come up with the most optimal way of parallelizing the algorithms, right? And now we are going to deal with system interconnect architectures. Okay, so we'll see what they are. So these are something like your networks, right? So system interconnects are the networks that connect uh, different components of your processor as well as one processor to the other. So for this, in this scope, in this subject, we will deal with uh, connection between different processing elements. Right? So they are categorized as direct networks, and these direct networks are for static connections, meaning like you statically you connect, you have like a topology that connect different processing elements. Okay, so that's the direct network, and these are for static. And then the other category obviously will be indirect networks, right? So indirect networks are also networks. So these are dynamic connections, meaning you have an infrastructure and dynamically you can choose like or program what connection you want to establish. Okay, so we will see how it is done. And then there are some network properties and routing. So network properties include how whether they are like static or dynamic network, and what is the network size. So network size typically is determined by the number of nodes in it, correct? So how many processing elements or how many processors we are able to connect, so that will tell us the network size. Then the next thing is your node degree. So ultimately, when you say a network, it's nothing but a graph, correct? So when you have a graph, you have the nodes and edges, where the nodes are nothing but the processing elements, and the edges are the links between them. Okay. Yes. Ah, sir, I'm in a class. I'll call you. All right. Yeah, node degree. Node degree is nothing but the it includes both in degree and out degree. So this is the number of links or edges that come into a node or they go out of a node. For simplicity, in this subject, we will only have a what to say. All the links are assumed to be bidirectional. Okay, so in degree and out degree we will combine together. So we will just call it node degree. And there's an important factor called as network diameter. Have you heard of this before? Network diameter? Anyone? Yes or no? Tell me one way or the other, right? Shubham? Okay. No, have you heard of this before? No, you have not. Okay, okay, yeah. All right. So network diameter is actually the maximum shortest distance. Okay, it's actually very funny to say this. It's the shortest distance between any two nodes, right? So you take all the shortest distances of between any two nodes, and then you calculate the maximum of that. That will give you the network diameter. Okay, so so again we'll explore that. So this is very important because this will tell you how what's the worst case uh, uh, hops you will need to communicate from one node to the other. And next, there is something called bisection bandwidth. So bisection bandwidth is nothing but this tells us the minimum number of links or edges that you need to remove to make the network into two equal halves. Okay, so if you have a network and you need to remove certain links from it, right? So you remove some links from it so that the network will become two independent and equal sized halves, like networks. Okay, so that's your bisection bandwidth. So generally, so you also deal with your channel width, which is your W, and channel bisection width, which is B. Okay, so the channel width is nothing but how much uh, width your individual wire has. Okay, how many bits can you support? And bisection width is uh, the number of links, and so you get B times W, you will get the total wire bisection width. And next is your wire length. So that's also an important factor. So how long you have, right? So this is a physical aspect of it, so we will not deal much with that. And finally, we have something called as symmetric networks. So when you have symmetric networks, then it's easier for you to split the network into half. And you also, there are so many things that gets eased out, like your routing, everything becomes very easy, like because it's a symmetric network. Next, we have data routing functions. Okay, so when you have a network, we also need to have some kind of uh, functionalities to it, right? So first thing is shifting, like shifting the nodes, right? So how can you shift? Like it's like ordering of the nodes. So how do you shift? That determines the shifting aspect. Then there is another thing called rotation. So how you can rotate? So rotate meaning, so all these things you can assume it to be. You can assume one network, and then you can give the labels to the nodes. Okay, and when you say shifting, you're just shifting the labels of these nodes. Okay, and when you say rotate, you're just rotating the labels of the nodes. Okay, so that's what rotation is. And there's another thing called as permutation. So permutation goes something like this. So you have so what are the different permutations you allow, right? So let us say you have uh, let us say you have like five nodes, right? So one, two, three, four, and five nodes, and now you can have some kind of a connectivity here, right? So the permutation tells us like how you can. So let us assume you want to have uh, two networks here. So then you will have a permutation of connecting these three nodes together. Okay, these three nodes can be connected in one way, and the other two nodes can be connected in the other way. Okay, and now between these three and this two, right? So now there are different possibilities, correct? So you can connect this one to this one to this. So which one should go to where? Okay, so it gives us, so this is just one way of connecting these five different nodes. Now if you think about it, so you if you have, when you start with this five nodes, you can have this whichever as a domain and whichever as a range. Okay, so you can split this as one. I mean, like it can have like 0 plus 5. So the permit, it can be 0 plus 5, 1 plus 4, 1 4, 2 3 3 2, and then 4 1, and then 5 0. And in each of these you have different way of like connecting these. So this one will have 5 factorial ways of connecting the nodes internally. Okay, and then you have so this is like 0 factorial times 5 factorial ways. So you have those many permutations of connecting a network given number of nodes. Okay, so these are all like the theoretical, like how many ways you can permute. The next one is broadcasting. So I think we all know what is broadcasting. So broadcasting means a single node broadcasting message to all other nodes. So this is very useful because mostly in parallel processing we do broadcasting. It's very easy to do that, uh, rather than just sending to selective nodes, right? But it comes at a cost. It takes a lot of bandwidth, so that's the downside of it. So to overcome that, we have multicast, where you only send to selected nodes. And there's also something called as shuffling. So we will see, I think in the upcoming slide, we'll see what shuffling is. And there's also this exchange. Exchange is just exchange of data information. And then you have hypercube routing functions. So we will see what is hypercube down the line, and then we'll see what the routing functions are. Now this illustrates the shuffle, so that we saw in the previous slide. So shuffling, there are two types of shuffle. So one is called as a perfect shuffle, and the other one is inverse perfect shuffle. So in perfect shuffle, what happens is, so when you have a bit, right? So you will shuffle it by shifting the bit one step left. Okay, so you just move the shuffle one bit left, so you get the next bit here. Okay, so if you have 0 0 1, so you imagine these to be the nodes. Okay, so now in this particular network you have 8 nodes. Okay, these 8 nodes are 8 processing elements. Okay, so these 8 processing elements, now you just have to say uh, who is my neighbor, or whom am I going to communicate directly. Okay, I'm going to send some message to somebody, so who is my immediate partner to send. Okay, so in that case you have some kind of a routing here, so where your 0 will just send to 0, and then 0 0 1 will send to 0 1 0. So everybody will send to one person adjacent to them. Okay, so this guy is going to send to 0 1 0. Okay, you're just going to shift one bit to the left, and then you get your neighbor. And similarly here, in inverse perfect shuffle, you're going to shift one step right. Okay, so that is going to be the inverse shuffle. Okay, so that's what you have here. And then we saw hypercube routing functions. So for now, let us just assume a cube here. Okay, we'll deal with what is hypercube in a few slides. If you see this, actually, there are different ways you can transfer the data. Okay, so you can route the data. So what you do is, there are three possibilities. So one is the you have these 3 bits, right? So this is your identity of the node. Okay, in these 3 bits, so this is your C0, C1, and C2. So that is you have named it this way. So now what you can do is, this person is going to send the bits to somebody who differs in their last bit. Okay, so if that is the case, that's one possibility, correct? So if the person is going to send it to another person who is just differing in this last bit, so then what happens, this guy will send to this guy. Okay, so this 1 0 0 will send to 1 0 1. So because they are differing in the last bit, you will just see whom I have to send. So then in this case it becomes this particular plane, okay, is sending to this plane. So the communication happens here. So this becomes like half network, this becomes half network, and you're going to send from this plane all the way to this plane. Okay, so this is one possibility. The other possibility is, you send to person who differs in their second bit. And who is that? So it's going to be this plane sending to this plane. Okay, so these guys are going to send it to the guys who differ in their middle bit. Okay, or there is again a third option, where you're going to send based on the most significant bit, so which is this guy and this guy, right? So these are the two half networks, and they are going to communicate this way. So this is the routing ways. Okay. So, and for your information, this is called as a three cube. In other words, it's called as a three-dimensional cube, right? So it's named as a cube, but then it could also be a single point, or it could be like a plane also. A plane, a square, right? A square can also be called as a two cube in networks. Okay, so this is called as a two-dimensional cube network. And when you want a three-dimensional cube network, it becomes a 3D cube. All right. Any questions so far, guys? Okay. So these are all like very self-explanatory. So I will just skim through these different network topologies. Okay. Then we have network performance. So where you have network functionality. Okay. So functionality of a network is nothing but you deal with how the data is routed, how the interrupt is handled, and how are you doing the synchronization of these messages, etc. Okay. So that's about the actual functionality of the network. The next one is the network latency. Of course, you need to deal when you have network, you have to deal with latency. Latency is the worst case time that is transferred through the network. Okay, so if I have to send one message from one processing element or one node to the other, what's the worst case delay for one hop, and what's the worst case delay for using the diameter, right? So that's gives me the network latency. And the second thing is bandwidth. Now latency deals with the first packet, right? So when I send my first message, how much time it takes for my first message to go from my node to the next node or the destination node. Bandwidth, on the other hand, is going to deal with the flow of all the messages. Okay, the rate of the flow of information, right? So how much I may get. So we are talking about like 100 Mbps networks and all, right? So that's the bandwidth of the network. Then we have hardware complexity. So now when you say hardware complexity, it mainly, if you have say n nodes or n processing elements, now what are the different, how many wires do you need to connect these based on the topology that you have chosen, right? And it also, how many, if you have any switches or connectors, how many what are the different hardwares that you require to make this network work. Okay, so that's the hardware complexity. Next one is scalability, which is very, very important. This uh, why this is important is because, let's say you're buying one a bunch of computers and making a cluster out of it. You have made a supercomputer, but in few years, like 1 or 2 years, it's going to become what to say, obsolete, right? Because of the number of nodes, you may not actually this may not support your computational demands. So what will happen? You'll have to add more processors to it. Now, if you, let us say you're buying 1,000 processors and you made a cluster already, then you are deciding after 2 years you're buying another 1,000. Now you should be able to scale this up. Okay. Now if my network topology is in such a way that it doesn't scale up, it's going to create bottleneck. Okay. If I just provide like say one link, I have two clusters of say 1,000 processors, and I have one link between the two to communicate, then that's surely going to create a bottleneck. And there has to be like some kind of a scalable network, how we can add more nodes to it and then make the network performance also good. Okay, so that deals with scalability, and many topologies that we will see down in the next few slides will be scalable by nature. Okay, so that's what we will deal with now. Then we have network throughput. Throughput is the rate of work done. Okay, so there's a total number of messages that you can handle per unit time. So it's just the rate of your messages that is passed. And there's something called as hotspot. So your throughput generally measures the average network performance, but hotspot, on the other hand, deals with the bottleneck regions. For example, like I told you one example, right? So you have two clusters of 1,000 processors in each, but there is only one link that actually connects these two different clusters. then that link becomes the hotspot, and the nodes that actually connect to these become the hotspot, so they are going to be overburdened. Okay, so that's what your hotspot means. Any questions so far? Okay, we will see some of the networks. So we're going to see all these now the rest of the class. Okay, so we'll start. So these are all static connection networks, and they are called static connection networks because once you connect, they are going to stay there forever. Okay, so like it's not like you can configure anything in between. So it's like it's a static connection, just like how our lab connections are, right? Lab computers are connected, so they are generally connected in like say a bus topology or something, right? Or a star or something like that. So it's going to be that way. Okay, it's a physical connection, and you will not be able to dynamically manage the topology. A very simple thing is a linear array. Okay, so this is very naive network. So it's just you're connecting all the processing elements in a linear fashion. So it goes from 0 all the way to 15. The only problem is if any one link fails, right? It's going to be you're going to have disconnected networks. So which means your bisection bandwidth in this case is 1. All it needs is 1 to disconnect your network. Okay, so we'll see some of the properties. So the number of nodes here will always stick to n here. So if n nodes are there, how many links you need n minus 1 links, correct? So if there are n nodes and you want to have a linear array, you just need n minus 1 links to connect it, and the degree is 2. Okay, why? Because you take any node, any internal node, you're going to have one input link and then one outgoing link. Okay, and the diameter is n minus 1. Why? Because the worst case or the maximum shortest distance is going to be from 0 to 12. Okay, here, oh sorry, 0 to 15 in this case. So if there are 16 nodes, you're going to the time it takes, this is going to be the maximum of the shortest paths between these two nodes, right? So when I say maximum, it's also it's like you get all the permutations here. So 0 to 1, 0 to 2, 0 to 3, and similarly like 1 to 0, 1 to 1, 1 to 2, 1 to 3, all these things are there, right? And when you take all these different permutations, then what is the worst or the maximum distance? And that's going to be 0 to 15, and that's your diameter n minus 1. Bisection bandwidth we already discussed, it's going to be 1 because any link you remove, the network will split into 2. Okay, any questions on this, guys? Please understand this. Only based on these properties we are going to explore all the other networks. Okay, any questions? Is it clear? Okay, next we will see ring. Okay, so now I want somebody to answer. So right, yeah, let's have who is not answered so far. Rahul Kumar. Let's pick a name. Right? Varshita, have you answered any of my questions? Varshita, are you there? Okay. So let's do this, right? So can you tell me how many nodes and how many links are there in ring topology? N nodes, good. Okay. How many links? How many links? Counting? N links. Okay, good. Very good. Nice. Okay, can you point to someone, Varshita? Can you type one name? Somebody who can answer the next question. Shruti, Shruti, can you please unmute? Shruti, are you there? Okay, Shruti is not there. Okay, some other person. Swedel, can you point to someone? Come on, guys. Let's make this fast. Okay, Swedel, can you point to someone? Pavitra, Pavitra, unmute. What are you guys doing? You just logging in and then walking away, is it? Pavitra, so who can answer this? How many are there actually? If I say attendance, then everybody will start typing. I think. Sindhu, are you there? 15 nodes and 14 links. Are you sure, Rahul? Anyone else? Chaitra? I'm just going to note down the names now. Chaitra, are you there? Okay. Hmm. Right. Yes, Rahul. 16 nodes. Yes. And then 15 links. Really? Seriously? One, two, three, four, five, six, seven, eight, nine, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. Guys, seriously, you have to learn counting. Come on, guys. It's 16 links. See, if it's 15 links, it would be a linear array. All you're doing is you have a linear array, you add one more link to it, it becomes a ring. Ah, yes, you're right. N nodes, N links, degree 2, diameter N, bisection width 2. Is it right? Ah, diameter is N by 2. Okay. Why is that? So, it's not N, right? So, if it's N, then see, the worst case is going to be 0 to 8. Okay. And that is done. It's only half the network you have to travel. Ah, you're looking at linear. Huh? Okay, okay, okay. All right. Then your bisection width is wrong. So bisection width is 2 here. That's you're right. Okay, yes. So bisection width is 2. So you need to disconnect say, this node and this node. Okay, so to make it into halves. So you disconnect this and you disconnect this. Then it becomes half. Okay. If you disconnect any one, you still have a linear array. Your network is still connected. Okay, you still have one network only. Okay. All right, guys, come on. Next is a chordal ring, okay, of degree 3. Okay, so here all you're doing is you're just extending this instead of having, you see where we are going now. So what you're trying to do, you're trying to reduce the diameter. Okay, so all you're just adding more links to reduce the diameter because diameter will tell us it gives the worst worst distance between the two extreme points, right? So that's the it gives that has to be reduced. Okay, so in linear array it was n minus 1. Now with ring it has reduced to half, correct, n by 2. And in chordal ring what you're doing is you are going to, so a chordal ring of degree 3, you're going to add like, so there's a ring, and then you're going to add one more link to every third node. Okay, so then what happens, your diameter has come down now. Okay, the degree of every link has increased because you're adding more links to every not every node, but yeah, every node you're adding the link. But what is happening, the diameter has come down. Why? Diameter is 5 here. So previously the worst case was sending 0 to 8, right? So it included like 8 hops all the way from here to here. But here in this case, the worst case is going to be from 0 to 7. So if you have to go from 0 to 7, it's going to be you have to go from 0 to 1, 0 to 1, 1 to, you can directly go to 1 to 4. Okay, and then you'll go from, so it's like 1 hop, 2 hops, 3 hops, 4 hops, and 5 hops. Okay, so in any case whatever you do, so 5 is going to be your worst case diameter. Okay, not, there's no worst case diameter, it's just diameter. Okay, and bisection width uh, is not 2, it's actually 4 here. Okay, so sorry for the typo. So it's not 4, it's actually, bisection width is going to be 6, I think, right? So you're going to disconnect this, okay, and this. You'll disconnect all these three on this side and then 3 on this side. So there's going to be 3 plus 3. Your bisection width is going to be 6 here. Okay, I'll correct it in the slide. Okay, any questions, guys? You understood how, so where we are going with this? So you started with the linear array, and then you're trying to make the network more connected. Okay, and diameter is what we are trying to reduce more. Now chordal ring of degree 4. Okay, don't worry, I'm not going to ask question now. So here what we are doing, so you're going to add more to it. Okay, so the degree 4, so every node is going to have 4 links going out of it. Okay, to every other nodes. Okay, so for example here in 0, from 0 where are you going? So from 0 you already have, in ring you have going from 0 and 15, right? So then you have 2 other nodes, so 0 to 4 and then 0 to 12. Okay, so every node is going to have degree 4. So that's the chordal ring of degree 4. It's also called as iliac mesh. Okay, so in this case number of nodes is 16, number of links, see, it became 48 now. Okay, it became 3n. The degree has become 4, but the diameter is reduced to 3. Okay, previously it was 5, now it is only 3. So the worst case, you can actually reach any node in less than or equal to 3 steps. Okay, and bisection bandwidth is 8 here. Then you have something called as barrel shifter. Okay, so barrel shifter is an interesting thing. So how barrel shifter is formed is, you take the take any particular node, and then you add extra links to the nodes equal to the power of 2. Okay, so each node to those having a distance of integer power of 2. So here you're going to go with from 0. So already you have so this, right? So then 0 to 1. So then every node, so from 0 you're going to go to 4. Okay, and then 0 to 8, and then 0 to 12. Okay, and then 0 to 15. Okay, now the idea is, so why you're doing it in powers of 2 is because if you do in powers, it's something like a, like when you deal with your binary tree, right? So you can reduce the steps in reduce in log n terms. okay, log n to the base 2. Similarly, you can reduce the hops also in terms of log n. So you'll actually you go, you take the hops like this, right? You go half the network, okay, and then you go to the next half of the network, and then you can go to the next half of the network, okay. So that is how it is done. So easy, you see how it's something like a binary tree that you are forming. So this is called as a barrel shifter. So any node you can go in log n steps, correct? So that's why it is very, very useful. Any questions on this, guys? Barrel shifter. So then you have these properties. Yeah. Oh, you didn't understand barrel shifter? Okay, so barrel shifter, you're going to make this connections in such a way that you can actually go traverse to your next half of the network in one hop. Okay, so if you take node 0, you will connect node 0 to node 8, okay, which is just half of the network, correct? So you can actually you connect 0 and 8 so that you reach half the network in one hop, okay. And here 8 will be connected to 4, okay. So 8 to 4, so anything in half, right, you can reach in one step. Then, right, and then from 4, so between these three, 4 to 5, you can, so now you see you can just reach any node in log n steps, correct? So that's the idea. Ha, now we come to the extreme, most extreme part of it. So where you have a completely connected network. So where you connect every node to every other node. Okay. So the only downside is your number of links becomes n into n minus 1. Okay. You're going to connect every node to every other node. Okay. But your diameter is just one, right? You can reach any node in just one hop, okay, and every node is going to have a degree of n, okay. So these are the different options that you have. If you have filthy amount of money, right, and you want to have a network, you can actually build an all to all or completely connected network. But otherwise, if we have a budget, then obviously we'll have to stick to some of the other topologies, okay. All right, then we have more interesting connections, right? The binary tree, and this is not a great topology to have in parallel processing, but then we'll just study because it's also there, right? So binary tree is actually so you have one root node, and then you have the root node going to two other nodes and goes on till the leaf, right? So so if it's a balanced tree, then your number of nodes is going to be n, which is 2 power k minus 1. And then number of links is going to be 3n, degree is 3, and your diameter is 2 into k minus 1. You have to disconnect the network 2 into k minus 1 times, right? So the only thing is, now you need to understand the as you go from leaf to your root, your traffic is going to increase, okay. It's going to double at every stage. Now this is a bottleneck, you understood? Now this node has is a hotspot, okay, because if this guy wants to communicate to this guy, then that's it. It has to go all the way, and then it has to go from here, and then anything across the network, right, it has to go through this. So now this link, these two links and this node will become a bottleneck, and it will become a hotspot, okay. Then we'll have a star topology. So it's again like very naive. If you have a very small network, it works. So especially if you have like a router and you want to connect all your computers to a router, and this is one of the ways you can do it, right? And so we discussed the problem with binary tree. To overcome that, we have binary fat tree. Okay, binary fat tree is same as binary tree, but the only thing is you actually increase the channel width. Okay, so you increase the channel width appropriately so that your traffic is not too much. Like I mean, you don't have hotspot created here. Okay, so you have enough channel width to communicate. Okay, so that's your binary fat tree. Ah, now we are going to deal with more interesting topologies. First one is mesh. So mesh is nothing but, it's, I mean, just like the name says, right? It's a mesh. It's a two-dimensional topology. So so if you have n nodes, n power k, where k is the dimension, so mesh can be 3D mesh also. So but this is a two-dimensional mesh. Okay, it looks like a net here. That's all. Okay, if it's a 3D mesh, then you have a cube, right? You have cubes of these, or like multiple planes of these 2D mesh together, put together. Then you have something called as iliac mesh. In iliac mesh, what you do is you connect the end, so you make a linear array kind of thing, right? So, or like a ring out of uh, you make a ring out of these dimensions. Okay, so here is one ring, and then here is another ring. Okay, so this is your iliac mesh. And next is very very interesting. It's called as a torus. Okay, a torus topology, I think I've already mentioned in one of our earlier, like initial slides of the torus topology. It's nothing but this looks like a vada, okay, or a donut. Okay, so how it looks, so we will just see in a bit. Okay, so the idea is, you again you make a ring out of each of the dimensions here. Okay, so this is the difference between iliac mesh and torus is, iliac mesh you actually connect it throughout, so you make like a linear array kind of thing. But here in every row you make a ring, and every column you make a ring. Okay, so that's what your torus is. And then you have your systolic array. And systolic array, it's very useful for signal processing applications, where let us say you have a b and then c as a matrix, right? So these three matrices will actually go into this, and then they'll get processed. So they'll keep moving in this direction, this direction, this direction. So it's like a very nice a pipelined way of processing things. And this is very useful for signal processing, and nothing apart from that. So it's very specific to signal processing applications. So we look at torus now. Okay. So a 1D torus is nothing but your ring. Okay. So you connect a series of processing elements, and you make a ring out of it, right? So it's just going to look like this. It's just a ring, 1D torus. A 2D torus is going to look like this. Okay. You make a ring here. For each of the column is going to become one ring, and each of the row is also going to become a ring. So it's going to look something like this. It's going to fold like this. Okay, so it'll look like a donut. And how it's going to look like a donut? It's like this. Okay, you make a plane, you fold it, and you connect the ends. It became a donut now. That's all. Okay, so it's very interesting. Now see you made a very connected network here. Okay, so this is your torus. And the most beautiful thing about a torus is it's it can be scaled very nicely. It's perfect for scaling. See how you can make a 2D torus out of a 1D torus. All you're doing is you're just making one ring, that's all. Okay, so you make a ring, you make a ring, and then you make a ring, you make a ring, you make a ring. So you have multiple rings, right? So this is 1D torus, 1D torus, 1D torus, 1D torus. Then what you do, you just connect all these elements, and then you connect this one to this, right? So you actually fold that. If you fold that, it becomes a vada now, correct? So you can easily make out of several 1D tori, you can actually make a 2D torus. And now this vada is there, right? So this is the 2D torus. Now what you can do is you can actually make a 3D torus out of it. Okay, so you can have multiple planes of 2D tori, and then you make a 3D torus. So each of these ring is one vada now. Okay, so each donut, and then each donut you form, it's like a I don't know how many of you been to temples. So to Hanuman, they make a vadamala, right? It's something like that. You have individual vadas, and then you tie all the vadas together to make a vadamala. So that's what it is. Okay, so and this 3D torus can be again scaled to 4D torus and so on. So it's highly scalable. Remember, I actually mentioned about scalability. So when you have network, let's say I have 1,000 processors, right? I make a torus out of it. I buy another 1,000 processors now. Now I can actually connect. I can make a 3D torus out of these two different networks. I can connect the two tori, and then make one 3D torus. Okay, understood? Any questions on this, guys? This is very useful and very important. Any questions? Okay, isn't it interesting? Okay. All right. So the next one we are going to see hypercube. So this is another important topology. Just like a torus, this is also highly scalable network. Okay. So this is a zero-dimensional hypercube network. And then when you say one-dimensional hypercube, it's nothing but a linear array, right? But if it's a two-dimensional hypercube, it's just going to form one square. A 3D hypercube is actually a cube, and a 4D hypercube, you're going to have two cubes and corresponding nodes connected. It's going to look something like this, a cube within a cube. So that's why it's called as a hypercube. It's also called as tesseract. Okay, this is a 4 cube. And this is a 4 cube meaning it's a 4-dimensional hypercube. So you have a cube within a cube. Okay, something like Inception movie. So you have a cube within a cube within a cube. You can keep you can make say multi-dimensional, like 9-dimensional cubes are also there. Okay, so you have cubes with everything goes inside. So idea is this node and this node can communicate in one hop, right? One dimension, you can just have a one-dimensional hop here. So that's the idea. Any questions, guys? So that's what this is. So this is a 3 cube. Okay, so this is a 3 cube. So 3 cube has 2 power n nodes. So n cube means n to power n nodes. And then you can go to the next dimension. You can increase the dimension. You just have two 3 cubes, and you can just put one inside the other. The other way to look at it is you connect the corresponding nodes. Okay, so you can also you can either represent it like this, or you can put one cube within the other. So there's also something called as a k cube connected cycles. Now here the idea is, let us just assume 3 cube for now, which is nothing but a cube. But every node, right, is actually a cycle. It's a ring. Okay, so you have a ring here, something like this. So you have like a 3 cube connected cycle where you have 3 nodes connected in a ring, and these 3 nodes will be connected. So all these set of 3 nodes, right, will be connected in a cube fashion. Okay, so any node you take in a 3 cube or n cube, that node will actually have a ring of k nodes. Okay, so that is what your k cube connected cycle is. To put them all together, right? So if you want to have like one consolidated network, what can you call it? It is called as k array n cube network. Okay, and this is the number of nodes, and the number of nodes is k power n. And so this is the way of representing this, right? So k is nothing but nth root of capital N. That's the number of nodes. Okay, now this is a superset of whatever topology that we have seen now. Okay, you can actually you can selectively choose the network properties to make either a ring, you can make a mesh, you can make a tori, you can make hypercube, anything you can make. Okay, so you can make any topology using this particular network. So it is called as k-array n cube network. Practically this is we don't make networks like this, but what we are trying to say is this is like a superset of all the networks. Okay, you can alter these properties to make it look like either a ring or mesh, or all these ring, mesh, tori, whatever is listed, right? So this can be these are all these all come under this the family of k-array n cube network. Okay, and so it's also called as topological isomorphism. So so this is ring is topologically isomorphic to your k-array n cube network, and so on. Okay, so this is the summary of whatever we have seen. So I'll leave it as a reading exercise for you, so just keep a note of it. You don't have to by heart it also. It's I mean, some of these are very intuitive. Okay, so you just have to put a little more thought into it. I think with this we are done. Okay, all right, any questions, guys? Okay, so if not, we're done for today. So thanks for joining, and please give your attendance and you can leave. Thank you.